All right, I guess we can start. All right, everyone, small classroom today, but we're going to be going into Intro to Android development. Everyone here is in this class, right? Cool. All right, I'm Jonathan. I'm one of the course instructors, and this is
I'm Gregor, the other course
Mhm.
instructor.
Yeah, and so just today we're going to go through just some sort of like logistics, and then we'll start with a little bit of a demo at the end for Android Studio, and just making sure like we're all in the same place for developing with Android. So yeah, so the goals for this course are practical hands-on experience in building Android apps, a portfolio of apps that you can share to your friends and discuss in interviews, and also resources for you to learn more. So on those resources, there's a textbook, an app dev textbook that sort of outlines all you need to do to get started with Android development. We'll share more about that later. But yeah, so this is us. We've already introduced ourselves. But we have a very large course staff that's going to be helping you guys throughout. We're going to be holding office hours like throughout the week. And if you guys need any help, you can reach out to one of them and they'll have their office hours up. Yeah, so about the course. So hopefully we're all enrolled in the CS 1998602 section. Is that right? We're all good with that. And you can take it for up to 2 credits. If you have some issues with like the enrollment cap in whatever college you're in, you can take it for 1, but we're all expecting you to do 2 credits of work. The ad deadline is March 20th. That's mandated by Cornell. That's the ad deadline for the second term 7-week courses. And the drop deadline is April 10th there. And so part of your grade will actually be weekly attendance. So we'll be doing a Kahoot just to record like who's in the lecture and then give you credit for that. But if you ever miss one, that's perfectly fine. We'll be recording them and posting them. So getting help, like we said, there's weekly office hours, but there's also ed discussion. Has anyone used that in any other courses? We're all pretty familiar with that. Cool. All the staff and we'll be on there as well. And then lastly, there is the course textbook. So you won't be able to click that, obviously, but there'll definitely be a way to access that through. I'll post it on Ed. And so our course schedule, it's going to be a project-based class. It's going to be pretty chill. 6 projects corresponding with 6 lectures. Each week, you'll basically have 1 lecture and 1 discussion on Wednesday. And that discussion will be more of a like hands-on demonstration of what you can apply to your project. And then at the end, there'll be the hack challenge, which is sort of app dev's end of course. Everyone gets together and you build a solution with your fellow Android members, but also like backend iOS, like everyone builds a solution. So yeah, going more into the course grading. It's pretty standard, uncurved, 70%. You get an S there, you pass. And your late policy, we're pretty generous here in the sense that we have 6 slip days to apply like over your 6 projects, and you can use a maximum of 2 slip days per assignment. So do with that what you will, and make sure to use those when you need to. And so the grade breakdown for this is 65% assignments. Primarily most of your grade is going to come from the projects. The last 20% is going to come from the hack challenge. That's mandatory, the hackathon at the end. And then 15% will be coming from participation. All right. And then yeah, once again, what you guys will get out of the course is hands-on experience, projects to put on your resume, and the materials to go back and review whenever you want to dive deeper. All right, cool. And then one last thing, this is a pretty serious course. There's a picture of Walter White for your reference. We take academic integrity pretty seriously. So when you're doing your projects, looking on the internet is fine. Searching is perfectly great. But general plagiarism is bad. If you find something online, please cite it. Or if it's like the entire project, please just don't use it. And then finally, partners. So for the hack challenge, you'll be partnering up, but for individual assignments in the course, please work on your own. Cool. All right, so that just pretty much covers course logistics. Does anyone have any questions on that? Pretty good. All right, cool. If anyone has any other questions, you can just raise your hand. But otherwise, we're gonna get right into sort of like our first lecture. So can I get a show of hands? Has anyone used Kotlin before or is like even familiar with it? What about like Java, you know? All right, that's pretty good. So Kotlin and Java are pretty similar. They're both JVM languages. And in fact, Kotlin was designed to sort of interop, like work along with Java. So I think all of you will have a great like experience in like jumping into it. So let me see here. So for one thing, one little like interesting quirk of Kotlin is that there is static typing like Java, but there's also type inference. So you can see on the first line, you'll see val name equals like the string Leslie. Is everyone good, cool on that? Val is just saying it's a value, like a variable, and then name is the name of the variable. But you're not actually declaring like the type of your variable there. Like you can see that Leslie is a string, but you're not explicitly saying it like here. And so they're both like the top one, which is inferring it, like inferring the type implicitly, and the second one, which is an explicit type, like you're writing the type in. Both of those are perfectly fine. And in fact, a lot of the times you want to be using like the type inference of Kotlin. But also it's good to know like just for code readability, you might want to write in your type explicitly. And then one other thing, just a quick note. So there are two like sort of keywords to create variables. Val signifies an immutable variable. Basically, you declare it once and you won't be able to reassign it later. You can see up there. We're saying val name equals Leslie. And then when we try and reassign it, you're going to get a compiler error there. But down there, you can see var for variable, like sort of like it's able to vary, like var. You can see that you can assign it to Leslie. But when you go down and reassign it, that's going to work perfectly fine. And then one more thing. So one thing that Kotlin kind of does away with is all the hassle of like a null pointer exception in Java. Is everyone like kind of sort of familiar with that, right? So in Java, objects can have like a basically point to null, and Kotlin tries to sort of handle that a little more like easily. So when you say like a variable has a type string, it can only be a type string. Like there, you will never have a null like referencing, or sorry, name will never reference null there. You can be pretty safe in assuming that name is always instantiated to something. If you want actually a null check, or sorry, null like a nullable variable, you would have to add the question mark to the end of the type. So that's kind of like saying like there could be a null there. So it's like maybe there's something there, maybe there's just a string, maybe there's nothing. So yeah, and I guess like why it's like this is that you have like some use cases where it's like you will have a variable that always has instantiated value. Like let me see, like when you like first load up Instagram, your profile name is always instantiated. It will always be like this one string. Whereas let's say like you're going through your Instagram feed and you like sort of start fetching like new posts, right? Let's say like your Wi-Fi goes down and you won't be able to fetch like a new photo. Then like your sort of image type might be null. And you need to like sort of consider that on like use by case basis. And then just how to sort of unwrap that nullability, or how to like sort of use it better in Kotlin. is that you can use both the double exclamation point and the question mark operator, or the question mark colon operator. So double exclamation point basically just enforces like that, let's say name is a nullable string. When you go down here and you say name exclamation point, you're basically just saying that you're going to like proceed with this code without a null pointer check. So this is the point in which like a null pointer exception comes back into Kotlin. You're basically foregoing all that like pre-checking. Okay. And you're just going to go straight into like sort of an unsafe, potentially unsafe line of code. The more like more preferred use is the question mark colon operator, which basically has like it's almost like a try catch in the sense that you're going to try name, and if name is instantiated with something, it's not null, then you're just going to print name there. But if it is null, then you're going to give it like a default of sorts. Like this, there's always going to be, like this one, you're never going to have a null pointer exception in any case. Cool. And then yeah, so that's pretty much like a quick crash course through like Kotlin semantics and like how it kind of differs from Java. But we're gonna go straight into a demo because like that's probably what we all want to do, just like build something. So does everyone have like Android Studio downloaded? Everyone got that running? Okay, cool. All right. So this is your editor. Can everyone just like pull it up real quick? So we're all on the same page. And let me just like raise your hand when you like done with that. Sorry? I'm not sure. Wait, what template? Oh yeah, so you can choose like the empty views activity. It's gonna say empty views. That's gonna be like the default like blank project. Yeah. So yeah, if you're booting it up for the first time, then you'll need to like create a new project to jump into here. Oops. But yeah, so on the left there, you have the project panel. Those are all of your like source files. Like you're gonna have like your resources that are like images, markdown files, stuff like that. And then you're gonna have like your source files, like those are gonna be like .kotlin, .java files. Most likely .kotlin. And then in the middle there, you have like the main editor screen. That's where you're gonna actually write your code. That's like where you write in your like edit text, I guess. You have the toolbar at the top. There's a lot of different functions that you can press. Probably the most important one is like the green play button, like somewhere near the center. That's gonna run your app, build and run it. And then at the bottom there is your bottom menu bar, and that has like a ton of tools to help you like understand like how your app is running. So one of them is like the terminal. One of them is like the debug, like the logging. So yeah. And then one of the cool features of Android Studio is that it comes with an emulator. So you don't have to like have an Android phone. You don't have to have a cable to connect it to your phone, to connect it to your computer. You can just run all your apps on the Android Studio emulator. And so that is just basically like a virtual testing environment that we can like basically choose any type of like virtual phone to create, and then it'll run them on there. So typically it's like slower running it on an emulator than using like an actual phone, but for most use cases, this is perfectly fine. Any questions with that so far? Cool. All right, well, I guess we're gonna go into more of like how we structure an Android application. So each like core functionality of an app is sort of wrapped around like an activity class. So an activity like defines how your app runs. So for let's say like for a login screen, that's going to be one activity. And for like the home page, that's going to be another activity. So the screens that you interact with are often backed by the logic within an activity. And then so like activities, yeah, activities are where we write our application logic. So it's going to handle user interactions, tell like the UI when to update, and just like update it like as you need to. And just like if everyone created like a sample project, you might have something like this, where the class is the main activity, and it's going to be of type app content activity. That's what the colon is saying. It's just like that type. And then like the on create is sort of as you can like kind of guess from the name, it's sort of the function that's called when you first create the screen, or when the screen is like first like painted onto your phone. And then just like how an activity is sort of like composed, you have layout files in XML. So layout files are basically just like how your UI is defined. So like where a button is on the screen, where like different text boxes are, like where like how to and how they relate to each other. Yeah. And then the program files written in Kotlin are under this like nested folder. It's in Java, and then like the name of your package. And then you're going to see like main activity, but you're going to be writing many more classes. Those are where your business logic goes. Those are where the vast majority of your source code is. Any questions on that? Pretty cool. And yeah. So more on layouts. So layouts are defined in XML. I believe it stands for extensible markup language. Don't quote me on that. But it's basically just, has anyone seen like HTML or something like that? Yeah, so it looks very similar to that. It's just a type of markup language that helps you define UI, similar to how HTML works. And so your XML layout will consist of various views, and they can be nested within each other. So like a text view, does anyone want to like throw a guess? Like, what does that do? Go ahead. Sorry? Yeah, for text. Yeah. And then image view, I'm sure you guys can pick up the rest of that. But yeah. So how those sort of like show up on the actual screens. So you can see at the top, sorry, number 1, there's going to be like sort of like a search bar that's going to be like defined in your XML. And you can see on the second line there, number 2, it's going to be like a button you can switch between like a variety of screens. Number 3, you can see it's just a plain old text view. It's displaying like the name of the eatery. Number 4, you can obviously see it's like an image view. And yeah, so like all of like your UI here, your main activity, this is almost like completely defined within like your XML. And so how we actually build these XML files is that Android Studio provides like a drag and drop way to build your UI. So this will basically we'll get into it later, where to actually find this. But there's basically a way to have the screen come up, and then you can like start dragging like elements over. So you can drag like a button onto that screen, and it'll automatically generate the XML code in the actual file. So yeah, and like I would recommend just using this drag and drop UI, because it's easier than like actually having to like parse through like your deeply nested like XML files. Yeah. And so this is what XML file looks like. You can see this one already has like some nesting going on, where it's like the frame layout is your larger screen that defines the layout of the entire screen there. And then you'll have a text view within it that sort of abides by the layout of its parent, as well as like has its own sort of attributes there. So the text view has something called an ID. You can see there in the red box, it's called Android ID. And that's basically how you give the element a name. So when you're going to be writing your business logic, you're going to have to reference like your different buttons or like different text boxes. You need to give it a name in order to know like exactly which button you're looking at. So that's the ID there. And then you have like the layout width, layout height, and like some like default text there. So yeah. You can see like that's XML, and this is what the screen ends up looking like there. Any questions on that? Going pretty quickly. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, what do you mean?
So XML.
Mhm. Right. So in your XML, you can't really do the same way of like declaring, like say like val name, right? It's not XML isn't like a programming language like through and through, in the sense that you can't have like it's pretty difficult to have like these sort of like generic variables. So if you ever run into like the need to use like a variable in XML, it's probably better served in the actual business logic in your Kotlin files. Good question. So yeah, any other questions on that? Cool. All right, so like sort of like more on what you're talking about. We need to actually end up connecting the XML to your Kotlin source code. So, and how you do that is with the ID that I previously mentioned. So the Android like API provides like this function that allows you to connect your ID in the XML to a variable in Kotlin. And so when you say find view by ID, and then capital R just stands for resources. It's like just the general way to fetch like XML files, images, stuff like that. If you go r.id, you can reference your XML ID that you wrote over there, and then it'll show up on in like as a variable called view in Kotlin. Oops. Right. Yeah. So that's basically the connection between the layout and activity. Is that find view by ID method. So you can see here. Oh, I can't see. Oh, I can't see my cursor. There's the text view here. And then when you say the val text view, that's Kotlin, equals find view ID r.id dot text view. This text view is the same thing as this text view. Like, don't get these two mixed up. The r.id refers to the ID in the XML. Yeah. Any questions on that? That's a lot of like of the same name, but yeah. Cool. And then like before we go into more of like the XML and Kotlin stack, I guess, we'll do like a quick intro to Jetpack Compose. Jetpack Compose is like one of the newer UI libraries that Google came out with. And it basically sort of eliminates the need for an XML file. So instead of having to write the XML file and like having to define your UI within like a sort of markup file, you're going to instead write purely Kotlin and sort of write your UI declaratively. So you can see over here, your UI, your text box is like this sort of text view element there. But over in Jetpack Compose, you can just say like a text class, and that'll define it in a similar fashion. So we'll talk more about that later, but like that's sort of just a quick peek. And then one more thing, when you're debugging your code, system.out.println isn't going to work because it's not Java. So instead, we would much prefer you use logcat. And how you use it is basically this syntax here. You say log.d for debug messages. You can write that anywhere in your app, and whenever your code encounters it, it'll print it to like the log tab at the bottom. And then you can also say log.e, which prints an error message. That's just like slightly different colors. Yeah. So that's cool. Any questions on that? Very cool. All right. I guess we'll go straight into the demo because we flew through that. Let me check the time. 25 minutes. Yeah, we're good. Okay, cool. Let me move into the studio. All right, so everyone has Android Studio open. Is that right? Okay, pretty close. Okay. So if you guys haven't created a new project, I would start with that first. So new project. We're going to start with the empty views activity. Make sure not to click the empty activity. It's kind of a weird way of naming it, but empty activity is Jetpack Compose. Empty views activity is the standard sort of Kotlin XML way of doing things. So we're going to click next, and you can name it whenever. I'm going to name it the lecture one demo. And then I'm going to specify the save location there. You can save it wherever you want. Let's see here. And you say the language is Kotlin. Hopefully that's default. And yeah, the minimum SDK, that seems fine. And yeah, so we're going to click finish. It's going to generate some of that. Might take a bit. Usually creating a project at the start takes a while to run. But is everyone on like the same page here? We have our empty project open. Cool beans. Let's see here. Yeah, just says Gradle sync in progress. We'll wait on that. My computer's low-key about to die. All right, looks like it finished building. So yeah, so right away we can start by looking at the file structure here. You have our main activity under Java. Yeah, it's kind of weird that it's called Java, but like it's in Kotlin. And then under the package, you'll have the main activity class, and you'll be writing like your other classes in the same area. And then under res, standing for resources, you click this open here, and you can click under layout. That's where your XML, well, that's where your layout XML is. So you can see on the right here, there's like 3 buttons at the top: code, split, and design. So code is going to give you your XML screen. Like this is like for people who want to like type up things. But if you go to design, you're able to sort of like drag and drop things over here. It's a little small because it's kind of cluttered, but yeah. And then split will give you sort of like the split view. So you can type text and look at what the design actually is in real time. So yeah, that looks good. So right away, we'll just click run and see what code we start off with. Oh, I was messing with it earlier, so that is the last thing it ran. Oops. Okay. Well, first thing about being a developer is being able to read error messages. So I'm having an issue with my Gradle file. Gradle is basically just the files that define like how you actually build a Kotlin project. So it's saying here, I need version 34 of the SDK, and here I have version 33. I'm actually just going to change that real quick. And if you guys run into a similar issue, like that might be the best way to solve it. Was anyone able to run it successfully? Like, cool. Pretty cool. All right, I'm just going to rebuild. Any questions so far? Oh, sorry, no target defined. Wait, Yeah, so that's what my screen looks like when I create the project. Does everyone else's look like that? You good on that? Sounds good. Okay. So we can wait a little bit, but I think for now, oops, the demo code that we're going to create, we're basically going to create a sort of an editable text, editable text field. And we're going to like sort of like type whatever text we want inside of it. And then when we want to update the hello world, like uneditable text field, we want to like press a button and then that's going to automatically update to the text. So it seems pretty simple, but it's actually going to involve like a lot of different things within the Android ecosystem. Let me just move this over. All right, so first things first, we might want to start with the UI. So you're going to open your activity underscore main .xml. Because as we all know, that's where the UI is. We good? Oh, okay. Oh yeah, you might have to download a new one. Let's see if it actually showed up there. Was everyone able to do that? Or okay, cool. So let's first, I'm gonna go slowly for now, but let's first start by dragging over a button here, and you can sort of just like plop it in the middle. I'm gonna close this for now. To make this, where to go? Here we go. Right, so my button's just kind of chilling in there. But the thing about our layout, if we go back to the activity XML file, is that it's a constraint layout up here. Constraint layout is basically a type of layout that where all of its all children elements basically have to be defined like relative to each other. So this button should be defined relative to like the parent, like the actual ends of the screen. You can see here, but just by clicking around, you can define it so that it's like centered horizontally, just by like dragging the right bound to the right and the left bound to the left there. And you can also bound it to the top, or sorry, the top of the button to the bottom of hello world, like so. Oops. Yeah, drag like so. And you can see now all of a sudden it's constrained to the bottom of hello world. And if you drag this to the bottom of the screen there, it's sort of now it's like sort of pulling in all directions, like sort of like equally constrained between the hello world and then the other three sides of the screen. We all good on that? And then next, we're going to drag in and edit text. So right now, you can see hello world here, but you won't actually be able to like type in whatever you want. This is just sort of like a default text box. So if you go to the left here, you can basically search for new elements or new components. If we type in edit text, we'll get all these results. And these are like different ways in which we can like add an editable text box. So if we drag over the plain text class, you can see it says edit text kind of in big there. Let's put it like somewhere here, right? And now it's unconstrained. So what should we do to sort of like make sure the text box is in the right place? What should we do? Yeah, exactly. So we can constrain this to the bottom of hello world here. And then honestly, like I don't want this button to be constrained to hello world. I want this to be underneath edit text. So I can delete this top constraint for now. I'll just click the delete button. It'll drop to the bottom, but we'll fix that later. let's make this constraint to the bottom of the button here. Oops. And then we'll constrain it to the sides. We can even, you don't have to do it to the edge of the screen. You can do it to the edges of the hello world box, actually. Put it here. And it's going to basically, wherever the hello world goes, edit text will also go in the same horizontal direction there. And then, yeah, this button, we're going to move it back up. Oh, yeah. We'll put it here instead. We'll constrain it back to the hello world. So once we've done that UI work, and just verify, like, you can see that the code has been generated in the XML file. We can just rerun it. And reload. And cool. So now you can see here, I can, oh, it starts with the default name, but then I can close it out and I can just like type whatever. So I can type here. I can click check there. I can click this button, but right now this button doesn't really do anything. We need to add business logic to it. So that's where we go back to the Kotlin file. So I'm going to open up the file structures here, and we're going to go back to main activity, right? So main activity and activity main are already connected via this set content view function. So you can see, like, for every business logic class, there's going to be like a layout here that's going to have the ID activity main, and you can sort of go back here and verify that that's like this name. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that find view by ID syntax to basically connect the button to like the business logic behind the button. So we're going to say val or var, but val is better here because we're not really changing the button. We're just giving it some business logic. So val, let's say button. We'll give it a type there. You can infer it, but we'll just give it a type just to make it more readable. And we'll say equals find view by ID. And then what would go in there? Does anyone have an idea? Yeah, go for it. Yeah, no problem. This is for the button. So like mine generated with an automatic ID button. So yeah, you're right there. We're going to say r.id.button. And then so now we've basically have this Kotlin button class, and it's connected to the XML element with the ID button. So now what we can do is sort of go down here, and we can set something called an on-click listener. So an on-click listener is a method that adds like a function where like every time the button is clicked, that function will be called. So if we say dot set on click listener, and we can use the use brackets at the end here. That's sort of the syntax for defining like I'll get into that later, but it's like it's like an arrow function of sorts. But within here, after we say this syntax, anything that's within the brackets will be ran every time we click the button. But what do we want to run? We want to run code to set what's in the text box to this text field, like to the text field there. Or sorry, the other way around. We want to set whatever's here to whatever's in the text box. So we're gonna first use the same syntax there, but for the text view. Let's say text view. Give it a type of text view using the colon there. And every time you see this, you can just click Alt Enter and it'll import it. Oh, I don't know if that's the same for Mac, but that's what it is on my laptop. Find view by ID. And we're going to give it the ID of the text view. Let me see what it was. It's here, and you're going to see right here, the ID is text view. And we can change this ID to whatever we want. And you'll just have to change it back here. So text view. Cool. And so now what we can do is go down here and we can say text view dot set text, and we can set it to whatever we want. So for now, we're not going to grab what's in the text, the editable text. We're just going to set it to something new, like Bob or Grigor. So let me rerun this. And you can see at the start there, it's going to be saying hello world, but when you click the button, it's going to change to Grigor. Cool. And it's not going to do anything else because that's all that's running here. Every time it's going to set the text to Grigor, and it's already set. So, but let's try and grab this text here, this string here, so we can set it dynamically. Does anyone have any ideas of where to go there? Yeah. Very good. Sorry? Yeah, something like that. So, oh, sorry. This text view is the hello world here. So we need to grab like the editable text in a different way. But we're going to do like what we've a lot of the similar things that we've done before. We're going to say val edit text, and it also has a class type of text view, but also I think edit text works as well. Yeah. So edit text is like a subclass of text view. If anyone was curious, we'll say just text view. It's already imported. Equals find view by ID r.id.edit text. Is that the right ID? We're gonna look over here, and it's actually like a weird edit text. So that's the ID. I'm gonna change it to something else. Let's say edit text. And if we go here, I think, yeah, it's gonna complain because not everything is synced up, but when we run it, it should work. So yeah. So now we're gonna go down here and we're gonna set the text to the text from edit text. So text view dot set text, edit text dot, I think you can just write get text there. So yeah. Rerun. And then it's going to start with name. Click button. That's going to change the name. Type Grigor. It'll change to Grigor. And when we type Jonathan, it'll change to Jonathan. Cool. And then you can see over in your IDE, you might have these like little yellow squiggles down here. That's basically complaining that there's sort of an easier way to write it. So instead of like the getters and setters in Java, Kotlin provides like a more easier way to get and set like variables. So instead of this, we can also write just text view dot text equals edit text dot text. You're basically grabbing like the value of the variable underneath called text. And then this is the functional equivalent to this. So if we rerun this, it'll be that. Give the button. We're cool. Yeah. So that's all I had for the demo, but we have like 5 more minutes. Can you guys find a way to change the name of the button? Perhaps it just says button. Just like try and explore around the IDE, and hopefully we can find a way to name the button. And let me know when you guys have get on. Go ahead. You could probably do it in either, but like I'm not going to change the name of the button once I create it. So you can also do that in the XML file. I'll give you guys like a minute to do that. Any questions on what we covered in the demo? Yeah, looks good. Any ideas so far? I'll give you guys a hint. If you go into the XML, you'll see like the different attributes of each element. And there's the ID there, and there's also like this Android text, and you can see it's set to button. So let me see what happens if I change this to S. Let's rerun it. And yeah, that changes the text there. And you have the same functionality as before. And then if you want to do that through the design menu, you don't want to like have to deal with all this like text going on. You're going to go to design and then click on the button. And there's a little tab that says attributes. There's like all the variables of the button. You see down here, text is like defined here. Set that back to like button. Cool. All right, cool. We're kind of reaching the end of time here, so I'm gonna close down Visual Studio. And then, yeah, any questions on what we covered today? On like course logistics or like any of the demo? All right, cool. Well, that kind of wraps up today. We reached the end of time. So yeah. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. It's pretty late as always, but yeah, I'll see you guys Wednesday.